Hey everyone, Siobhan Nicolau here, taking you on a journey through my first book, The Absence of Evil, Love's Reclamation of the Soul. And today we want to take you through chapter 2, titled Die Hand des Schicksals, which is German for the hand of fate. Now, chapter 1 describes how when we come into form, we're just a little sponge from the time we're conceived till we're 8 years old of negative and positive emotions, and how that begins to form our outer world. So chapter 2 here, the hand of fate, which we all experience because coming into form just does that, because negative emotion is part of the physical experience. So here I am, barely on the planet in my body at age 4 and being conditioned and prepared to join the ranks of Catholic school. So I went into first grade at age 4. Now, being as sensitive as I am, especially in those days where I had no knowledge of anything in terms of how to deal with my energy, all of that, my physical body began to respond to the negativity in its environment. So I was terrified. I was terrified by a lot of things. And this is just barely out of toddler stage and in first grade. And I started to manifest bladder and kidney infections, kind of at an alarming rate. And my body also was allergic to just about darn near everything. So I had scratch tests and things like that. And there's tree pollens and cigarette smoke and chalk dust and cats and dogs and you name it. I was pretty much allergic to it. Well, both my parents smoked. They did get a dog for a little while. And I was just miserable. And what happened was that my body didn't know how to deal with the negativity. So it began to go into resistance at every turn. And so that's why these things manifested. I didn't know how to process the energy in my environment at all because I was 4. So we're talking through this chapter how, fate has it that everyone's going to go through these types of experiences, some not like, as dramatically as others, and how my physical body began to respond. So as these negative emotions were imprinted continually at this point, right, they began to become apparent in external reality. So we had the school and the uniforms and stuff like that. And we had these small classes with ominous reflections. And, the negative emotion was manifesting in the reflections, bounced back and forth between my siblings and myself, and my mom and my siblings. And, it's like this triangle of energy. Anytime someone's in trouble for something or whatever, the punishments and the yelling or the physical abuse or whatever it was, imprinted us even further. So fear was what triggered a lot of that within my physical body. I just couldn't handle it at all. So this is when things became really apparent, and we were just like, well, this is life, right? There's no thought process to any of this. My life has always moved very quickly. And so it's like moving, adapting fast on your feet, which, there's something to be said for that. I have to admit, it was kind of traumatizing as a child. But when I really look at my ability to adapt to that kind of change, because it's out of my control, was a pretty good thing to learn. Because we do have to adapt when we're small. We just have to kind of go with the flow of what's happening. And it's how we feel about what's happening, not what's actually happening. And so there was a lot of fear and a lot of instability that came along with that as I grew. Those were the outward, reflections of things, or the inner reflections rather of outward experiences as I grew older and didn't really know what was going on. So until I learned to make the correlation between my outer experience and my inner world, then things were quite unexpected, in the way I would respond. So learning how to be that flexible in situations made me flexible in all kinds of situations. And so this is when it really get sunk in. Post toddler, 4 to 8. We're in the home stretch of all this stuff, and that's first grade, second grade, third grade. And I was the youngest person in the class always, right? And plus, I had no interest in school. I hated it. Only grade that I ever appreciated was sixth and seventh grade, and we talk about that later on in my book. But as a small person, it was just about being imprinted more in a different way with a new set of rules. My mother had a rule book she typed that she had punishments and chores for every age group, bedtimes, everything, you name it. And so that came into effect when we were 3 years old. When we were 3 years old, it was about emptying waste baskets. That was the first chore that you ever experienced. And so there became this way of, it wasn't really being part of a team. It would have been nice if it was like that. It was more like do or die, 3-minute showers, all this kind of stuff. The threat of an ice bucket of water flowing over if you go over time. Everyone's standing in line like in the military with a hand towel, a toothbrush, and a frown on their face. But so, things started to really pick up the pace as they began to be more an active part of my reality. So, the hand of fate, you can't get out of its way. But you can certainly learn to love yourself and get over it.